This channel is sponsored by ExpressVPN, and if you don't use this link to get 3 months free on top of a 1-year plan, then you're scamming yourself.
Everything's fine, got some merch in the store. It's hot, it's burning, it's trending, I'm buying. Everything's fine, got some merch in the store. I miss that outside where somebody can save me. What's you gonna do with all that stuff? You can wear it or burn it or give it to your dog. Everything's fine, got some merch in the store. It's hot, it's burning, it's trending, I'm buying.
Our world right now is a crazy place.
This is bad. Real bad.
Especially at the time that I'm making this video. So, in an effort to keep up with all the changes and diversify not only my content, but my way of living, I became a pirate! That's right, I'm a proper swashbuckling, corn-shuckling, cocksuckling pirate.
Man came riding by, and we
Say so, and we know so.
Oh, a poor old man came riding by.
Oh, poor old man. But I know this outlaw life is only temporary. I need something to sustain me, and all that child support that I refuse to pay. So I left my ship to return to my true, respectable calling. Being a YouTube critic! And with a whole 1.5 reviews under my belt, I became the authority on internet media. I asked my audience on Twitter what they wanted to see me review next. The overwhelming answer was Attack on Titan, but that one's gonna take a while because there's a lot of material. Also, the show is about building walls, but they can't seem to build a wall that works. So 7 out of 10. But I tried some other ideas from viewers. I'll leave a time skip if you want to go past these and get to today's review. Still no One Piece. You know, I'd love to review this show, but I heard that after watching 400 episodes in a row, you actually become a pirate, and I can't go back to that life I just left. Full Metal Alchemist. This kid and a Reinhardt main do magic. 10 out of 10.
What's happening?
Parasite the Maxim. This is like an R-rated version of that Brainworms episode from Dexter's Lab. 10 out of 10. 7, Evan. You know, I forgot this movie had Kevin Spacey in it. 5 out of 10 for making me remember that, man. Oh, and by the way, if you're here from the time skip, go back and watch. Come on, I work hard on this stuff. Haikyuu, it's got volleyball. 10 out of 10. Malaysia. 8 out of 10, you know, it's aight. Make your own Pokemon game. This portion of the video has been claimed by Nintendo of America and the Pokemon Company.
Got him!
Berserk. Wow, I literally can't show any of this on YouTube. 10 out of 10. All of these are brilliant ideas, but while these thoughts were cooking in my head,
Yeah, boy.
another show caught my attention.
Oh, that's hot. That's hot.
In the Japanese section of Netflix, there's a certain show called CAMS. It's a feel-good show about hard work, friends, and the wonderful world of organized fraud. And when you put those things together, I mean, what could possibly go wrong? Oh. Well, at least the theme song's a banger.
Didn't have to cut me off. Sick like it never happened, that we were nothing.
CAMS takes place in April of 2009. In case you didn't know, that's just after the Lehman Brothers collapse. Basically, this is around the time of the housing bubble collapsing, the Great Recession. It's a hard time for everyone. Something important to note about CAMS is that each episode opens in what I define as a 3-part scheme. There's the preface. It's a set of text slides that reads, "Since 2003, a special type of scam targeting the elderly, called the money transfer scam, has proliferated in Japan. Financial damages increased every year, reaching 56.5 billion yen in 2014. Now, in 2019, scammers have changed their techniques, and the damage continues." Oh yeah, I forgot to mention this show was made in 2019. Then we have the recap, or the setting. This part usually encompasses a few clips of the previous episode that bring viewers back to speed. But wait, this is the first episode, so how do we recap? Well, you'll see. But after the recap, we always get the intro. the electrifying rhythm of Jigsaw Puzzle by Mafu Mafu. The vocals croon very playfully, and it just kind of makes you smile every time you hear it. It's so high energy. Music as a whole is something that this series succeeds at time and time again. We can hear it with the driving rhythm of this opening soundtrack and these sweeping shots of a group of businessmen calmly pushing their way through the streets of Japan.
Hey, what's up guys? It's Scares here.
I like this shot because from the drums, the looks on their faces, everything, so many details can be inferred. Like, first off, these men are professionals. Their suits are pressed, their hair is clean, and their posture is straight. But things aren't always what they seem. Like, why are they using their knuckles to press buttons? And why do they need all these cell phones?
We got a 1022 in progress.
And a boombox? Is that guy doing CrossFit?
Pretend that airplanes in the night sky are like shooting stars.
That's right. These sharp-dressed boys are wolves in sheep's clothing, looking like regular Japanese salarymen as they hustle a poor lady on the phone out of an undisclosed amount of money. Then we get this really interesting breakdown from our leader character.
金持ち老人から金を奪い取る毎日に俺の心は1ミリも痛まない
So, what brings a person to this point in their life, right? What kind of person wakes up with no regard for the lives around them and smiles? What motivates a person like this? Well, the answer to that all starts in front of this ATM. Are we about to witness another scam? No, not this time. This is actually happening in a time before our fearless leader became so fearless, which is portrayed by this conversation with a friend where he asks him to spot him a few bucks. For the narrative's sake, let me introduce you to everyone in our core cast here. We have Kusano, also known as Makoto, his friends Shotaro, Himeka, and Misaki. The whole conversation they have portrays the attitude that a lot of Japan still carries today. Self-reliance. No one's gonna save you. Something many of us can relate to hearing, whether we're college graduates like Kusano,
I went to college.
or not. The world always has a way of making people feel left behind, with no one to save them. And if they're hurt, they get told to suck it up. To an extent, you have to face the hard things to build character. But what Kusano and many of us can't stand for are things like the idea of people being shackled into 6-digit debt for their lifetime, while, I don't know, billionaires gain $1 trillion during a pandemic. Seeing this distaste, Shotaro offers Kusano a well-paying job in finance, quote-unquote. Misaki can see right through this, but the money is attractive, especially to someone with no job like Kusano. They get interrupted by a sloppily drunk old man before Kusano actually denies Shotaro's offer. Right now, in this moment, we get to see that Kusano is still on the straight and narrow. He has a strong moral compass, he's a family man. He takes a call from his mom, Sachiko, and
つまり眼球にできた癌です
Kusano's father's diagnosis of cancer is world-shaking, especially to a family that's already in tragedy. And when the only options are an uncertain surgery, terminal care, or an expensive new treatment, Kusano echoes some really desperate sentiments. He calls insurance and the whole system unfair. And when the doctor stonewalls, we get to hear that inner monologue swell again.
世の中厳しいって誰も助けちゃくれないってふざけんなよ
When we go back home, Kusano's student loans are piling up along with other bills. And if you think it's finally time to start Breaking Bad, you'd be miserably wrong, debated! Because Kusano tries the legitimate route. He holds an interview at a company where we get to learn more about Kusano's background. He was in personal relations in real estate, but in the Lehman collapse, Kusano was let go, even if that's not the story he spins to his prospective employer.
Why you always lying?
Something to know about the severity of the bubble popping in Japan is that Japan still has yet to fully recover from its impact. Japan's reliance on exports rather than raw materials put them at a significant disadvantage. Kusano continues to plead his case, but they get interrupted by an older employee. And if you've been paying attention, this is the second time that the show has gone out of its way to portray the elderly as aloof and in the way. It's an excellent storytelling technique. It helps kind of sow the same seeds in your mind as those in the head of the main character. Kusano is dismissed, doesn't get the job, and after he pays a visit to his dad, he tells Misaki that he has to go buy iTunes gift cards for his YouTube clickbait, but in reality, he's meeting up with Shotaro and Shotaro's friend, Yamada. Yamada's hypersexuality is just a little bit uncomfortable, but that's the goal of his character kit. When he's not unnerving you with his disgusting, perverted attitude, he's a criminal. He's someone dangerous. Yamada hands the two boys a pair of bags, and Shotaro goes to work applying polish to his fingertips. Kusano doesn't know what's happening, so Shotaro spills the beans. He lets Kusano know that this is an ATM scam. They're gonna use debit cards that aren't theirs to withdraw mass amounts of money from other people's accounts. Kusano's not about that life. At least he thinks, but it's too late now. Shotaro corners him with stern language and threats. He tells Kusano things like, Yamada is a killer. They're both too far in to turn back now. He glamorizes the money that can be earned, a flat rate of 10% off the top of whatever they take. And come on, when you look at that versus a regular job, the choice is obvious, at least to someone desperate. With all of this coercing and sweet talk, Shotaro is the devil on Kusano's shoulder. Literally, the guy's even wearing red. I especially love the line, if no one will help you, then you have to help yourself.
誰も助けてくんねえなら自分で何とかするしかねえだろ。ちょっとやばくて。そうだろ。
Kusano enters the store, but nerves start to take over. Whether it's his shaky, sweaty fingertips, the threatening warning signs, or even this interaction with the old lady, every shot in this scene is built to make you feel stressed. There's low angles, moving, blurry shot compositions that'll have you sweating as much as Kusano. And then this cop scene is so well done. The basket being entirely out of frame is the perfect setup for this kind of thing. Eventually, Kusano manages to make the transaction, but the police know what's up. However, it's not Kusano that's taking the heat, it's Shotaro. The police chase him down the block. Kusano begs Yamada to rescue Shotaro, but when Yamada says no, Kusano decides this is Initial D now, and he steals the van. He rescues Shotaro, but the two run the getaway car off the road.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Then the scene cuts to a dark van on a bridge, where two important-looking people are taking a phone call. Are these the people at the top? Or is there more to this operation? All we know now is that this boss character has taken an interest in our favorite graduate. Speaking of, Kusano gets himself a rude awakening.
Squash banana hungry.
Yamada explains to Kusano that Shotaro ran off with all of the money from their scam, and after threatening Kusano's family, Yamada pressures Kusano into paying back the debt in labor. Kusano will be training to scam old people over the phone, and if he tries to leave, he'll be game-ended. You see, Susan, I'm family friendly. There's this really nice touch of the audio of a news announcement about scams playing as Kusano arrives at the building. Hey, this place looks kind of familiar. And then we get this shot of everyone else who's in training. I find it interesting the amount of color and diversity in looks that we see in this shot. Like, I might be putting on the tinfoil condom here, but maybe it's an attempt from the director to portray the raw variety of people that were impacted by this crisis and kind of show how anyone can become desperate enough to choose this lifestyle. We also get introduced to one of my favorite characters in the whole series, Tokugawa. Okay, look, the subtitles spell it with a D, the wiki spells it with a T. I'm just gonna use T to play it safe. And with all of this, all Kusano can probably think is, how did I end up here? I just wanted free V-Bucks. We get a smooth transition into the next episode that opens on an investigation into a scam in progress. CAMS is trying to show you the flip side, along with the leading police characters in the series. Here we have Kanazaki, and he calls scammers human trash. And then we get this perfect hard cut right back to the training camp. Kusano isn't doing so hot, and Tokugawa isn't helping as he continues to apply pressure to the trainees. Tokugawa is portrayed by Masato Wada, and he brings his character to life in a way that you can just feel beyond the screen. I'll be gushing a lot about his acting in particular, but he does great with giving his character quirks that don't make him feel too over the top. We're also formally introduced to Semiya, who reveals that he, along with everyone else, is there under the pretense of training for a new job. Oh yeah, did I mention he has a kid too? We're taken back to Kusano's father's hospital, and we get a scene that sets the tone for expectations of behavior towards the elderly. Kusano surrenders his seat only for him to be interrupted multiple times while he's on the phone by that same old couple. You know, it's supposed to put the idea in your head, well, why should I be doing nice things for these people who are just gonna turn around and act like this anyways? That's Yamada on the other end of the line, by the way. He's trying to figure out where Shotaro went to, but no clue so far. Cut back to Kusano's home, and he blatantly lies to his family when they ask about his work. His mom is all excited over her legitimate job. She just got hired as a housekeeper. Meanwhile, Kusano is silently committing to this lifestyle. You can see it creeping into him. His character is eroding morally. Physically as well. He's picking up a cough from all the cigarettes he's been smoking.
何? 風邪?
It's day 3 of training, and Kusano, not getting anywhere with the standard approach, asks Tokugawa if he has to follow the script exactly. Tokugawa likes the spirit and grants him some flexibility. Meanwhile, Semiya starts asking questions, and Tokugawa pulls no punches. He openly admits, this is a scam. We're just here to gather information and addresses for phone scams. But at the same time, he sets the stakes. He promises that anyone who can make it through will have the chance to earn big money. People start slowly dropping from the program, but Kusano is improving. He's just not quite there. But this gives us one of my other favorite scenes in the whole show, the test call.
すみません、突然のお電話失礼いたします。
結構です。Contact Navic Hospitality!
おい、今俺が何やったか分かるまで100万回考えろ。
So why is this scene so good? Well, frankly, it's everything. Like, not only do we get these super satisfying shots, we're getting characterization on both sides. For Tokugawa, we learn that he can be a good teacher when he applies himself. These are the skills that have carried him as far as he is now. And for Kusano, we get to hear more of his inner monologue. We get to learn about how observant he is. He's an educated guy. He can apply himself. It's just that he's chosen to use these skills to scam boomers out of Bitcoin or something. And then when Kusano finally closes his first deal, you can just feel the rush in the room. Tokugawa puts a bounty out for anyone who can pull through the training. $100 and 5,000 silver in Raid Shadow Legends. While everybody's celebrating Kusano, he's too busy feeling the weight of his choices begin to pile on. He remarks, no matter how much I'm praised, I always end up in the same place. And then we're taken back to the cold solitude of his room, which kind of looks like Light Yagami's. And then we get this shot of Kusano walking on his own. I think this is the director trying to show us that Kusano is making all of these achievements, but he's losing people that he can be honest with. And that makes him lonelier than ever. Kusano stumbles on Misaki and Himeka, the latter of which has had way too much to drink, and he decides to walk them both home. We actually get to see Kusano try and be sincere. He tries to tell the truth, but it gets interrupted, and the moment's just as quickly gone. 5 people make it to the end of training: Kusano, Semiya, Goriki, Kurusu, and Mori. So to celebrate the occasion, Tokugawa takes them on a field trip.
down Main Street.
They arrive at a country club. Tokugawa has brought them here to display the gross wealth disparity between them and the elderly, their main target. It's basically a show of how the old can spend so frivolously without even a care in the world for those who might be struggling. Plus, we get this little background bit for Kurusu. He comes from a family that had an architect business but fell through. And it probably goes without saying, but I believe that plays into his character's motivation deeply. He's tired of people being above him. He wants to level the playing field. They do this montage scene at the pool, and I am 90% sure I can't show on YouTube, and 100% sure I don't want to. So let me show you these guys.
Hey, mamma mia, that is pretty spicy.
This right here, this is Tokugawa making a statement about the other side. These guys who look like they're middle-aged are actually in their prime. Working their lives away has just withered them to the bone. To add to this, Kurusu tells us that the office that they're in is an abandoned IT company. It's a graveyard of the dreams of people just like them. Kurusu also shows his attitude. His thought process is basically that no matter what you do, you'll always be used. Tokugawa enters with the boss figure from the first episode. His name is Kanbei. Kanbei starts telling the boys everything. He tells them that he runs the scamming offices and announces that the boys have a chance to be brought in as players, people who make and carry out the actual phone scams themselves. He tells them no pressure, but if you don't...
図鑑の新たな1ページ
And with all this set up, Kanbei begins to lay down his points, which all rely on a key motto. The elderly are a cancer on Japan. Eat the rich. The whole opening of episode 3 is like a sales pitch. And I'm not just saying this like a critic. I'm saying this as an individual on the outside. Regardless of me agreeing with some of what Kanbei is saying or not, it's not being given to us alone. We have to look at how Kanbei is conveying it to the characters. And he opens it really strongly by asking the question, is scamming a crime? Spoiler alert, yes it is. But Kanbei has a different way to spin it. Because don't plenty of people already do it though? We're sold illusions of grandeur. Buy these books and you'll succeed. Wear this and people will like you.
Our fertility is being targeted. Ladies and gentlemen, Anthroplex is the newest edition at InfoWarsLife.com.
I like to eat children!
So why aren't these guys arrested? Well, Semiya has a thought. Consent. The law of consent. The trick works, the person consents, and boom, money gone. But Kanbei throws this into question too. Also, fun little backstory about Kanbei. He used to work in real estate, and I don't think it's any accident that when he's talking about this, he's positioned just behind Kusano. Kanbei says that compared to the guilt that he felt at that job, scamming is much easier. And then he explains it in another A+ scene, which I call the numbers scene.
詐欺の場合、ターゲット1人当たり200万。これは貧乏人なら首くくる額だが、年寄りなら電話一つでポンと出せる額だ。なぜか金に余裕があるから。いいか？日本中の金の半分以上は60歳以上の年寄りが持ってる。信じられるか？信じられるよな。お前らその目で見てきたんだから。
There's a lot of key points that he pitches here. There's a lot of statistics. He calls stealing from the poor exploitation and stealing from the rich seizure. He says that the elderly hold over half of the money in Japan. Those over 60, that is. Their money comes from a different, more prosperous time, and that their average bank account size is around $200,000. That's in addition to an $1,800 pension that they get each month, that apparently they save 40% of. Kanbei says that holding money like this makes these people a disease, a sickness, because they're not contributing. Notice that this is the only scene in the show that uses screaming text at the audience. It's priming you. The scene is meant to indoctrinate you after all. It's trying to make you buy into the scam by flashing it in front of your eyes, burning it into your head. And I have to say, Kanbei sells a scam very well. Kanbei's tactic relies on dehumanizing the elderly. He makes them sound like an alien race, a different species. In his words, it's this separation that helps him push forward and bring more people in. In exchange, he promises protection, money, and something more valuable: fulfillment. We're brought back to the familiar shot from episode 1, and we also get the story behind the knuckle trick. If you didn't figure it out already, it's so that they don't leave fingerprints. Dokugawa's policy allows 3 things in the office: tobacco, money, and a work phone. And operations start with this weird ceremony. I see this as another way to dehumanize old people, because Dokugawa has people tell stories of how the elderly made their life hard day to day, and then he makes them do a chant.
じいさんが無料の娼婦をすっごく玉カバンの中に入れてて、それ店員さんが注意したらなんか逆ギレしてすっげえうざかったっす。ふざけんじゃねえ。老害ぶっ潰す。老害ぶっ潰す。老害ぶっ潰す。老害ぶっ潰す。よし、今日もよろしくお願いします。お願いします。
The boys try their first scam. The whole ploy of these things is to trick old people into thinking their loved one is in a dangerous situation that money can potentially fix. But this scam falls apart due to poor communication. However, the players are still on a salary, at least for the time being. They get a little under 5,000 bucks a month, plus transportation cost. Of course, they can't deposit it, so Kusano just hides it under his bed. But finally, the boys get their first success. And from there, they're on a roll. Kusano is paying off his father's treatment slowly and surely. And celebration is in order, right? And even if the boys can't drink or get high, Kanbei still wants to show them a good time, and he tells everyone just how proud he is. Okay, so the rest of the scene, I'm not gonna lie, it has titty. So unfortunately, I can't show anything.
Psych! ExpressVPN, baby! Anything is possible! Woo!
Oh, wait, that's Himeka. Himeka's here because she was told not to ask questions, but she has a lead on Shotaro. Turns out he's been on a holiday in Osaka. So Kusano sees an opening and says, "Swish!" But then Yamada shows up. Wouldn't they have smelled the tobacco? And Yamada says, Yamada wants his money back and threatens that if he doesn't get it, he's gonna take it out of Himeka. So Kusano agrees to pay it off down the line. Himeka, clueless, just begs to know what's going on, and Kusano can only tell her to keep her mouth shut, especially to Misaki. If Kusano could turn back before, he sure can't now.
今日のことは絶対誰にも言うな。特に美咲には。頼む。
Episode 4 shows us what's happening on the other side of things. Kanbei's bosses, namely this guy, Tojo, want him to expand. And when your bosses just so happen to be the Yakuza, you tend to do what they say.
あとのつぶれ増やせ。できます。
But I like how in this meeting, we get to see mixed feelings about Kanbei's trade. Even within his inner circle, some people silently respect him, other people outwardly think he's scum. Kanbei's got a fatty.
Fatty?
Kanbei buckles under the stress being placed on him. While Dokugawa is pushed to go operate the new branches, they start to consider who can take over as manager. And I bet you can guess who comes to mind. Kusano initially doesn't want it, but Dokugawa comes back at him with,
こいつあれだ。会社でいや辞令ってやつだ。選択肢はね。
Oh, I can't get enough of this.
And one of those orders is to use the new register to reach profit earnings of 120 million yen.
Daring today, aren't we?
Just under $1.25 million. So to deal with the stress, Kusano and Semiya decide to bend the rules a little bit.
ちょっと時間ある？
乾杯。
乾杯。
Kusano has an intimate conversation where he talks about his concerns with being leader. He looks up to Kanbei. And Semiya actually plays a really wholesome role and says that they should exchange phone numbers since Kusano needs a right-hand man like Kanbei has Tokugawa. But Kusano has more stress to add, because when he gets home, it turns out his dad's cancer metastasized. Oh, and remember Yamada? Yeah, he still wants his money. It's here we see Kusano reaches a breaking point. He blocks Yamada using the same techniques that he used to scam.
上に相談させてください。上に相談させてください。
おーいい度胸だ。
じゃあ俺やることあるんで。
おいこら！おら切ってんじゃねえよお前こら！
And in doing so, he seems to have taken care of him, at least for now. We also get this really refreshing scene where Kusano makes a new script that's actually based off of a mistake that he made. For me, it's the simple laughs and the little physical cues that remind you, these are people, they're teammates, doing whatever they can to survive. This is definitely the show, trying to get you to feel for him, and for a second, maybe it works. Kusano visits Misaki's house, where a news report plays about a scammer being arrested.
What is up, Traveler Nation? I'm your host, Killer Keemstar. Let's get right.
But instead of being scared, Misaki's grandma, who's watching with them, shows Kusano the other side of what he's facing. Some people won't go down without a fight. It's no coincidence that the gun, the camera angle, everything about this scene points to Kusano. The pressure is on.
おびき出すの。
はい。
I like this next scene because we get to see how the money exchanges actually take place. So one of the players assumes a disguise, picks it up from the target, and then hands it off to a secondary contact at a secondary location. The contact then takes it to a tertiary location where it should be picked up by one of the player's collectors. You know, unless something like this happens. We're told by Tokugawa that the attack came from someone on the inside. As for the lost money, Tokugawa tells them, give it up. In this business, money they don't collect didn't exist in the first place. This helps them keep moving forward. Oh yeah, I should mention, they view what they're doing as business. You know, hence the office, the suits, everything. It's all part of the mind games. The pressure is on now more than ever. So Kusano decides to call a meeting with Semiya to discuss where to go from here. Semiya actually spots Kusano on the way, but under the cover of a bustling train, Kusano gets ambushed by Yamada's men.
4丁目の交差点ってここからどう行けばいいですか？
え、何？
What is it about her? Is it her lightning-fast speeds? Is it her dedication to privacy? The way she never stores her customers' logs? Maybe it's the way she seamlessly connects between servers in 94 different countries that makes her so exotic. It could be all of these, but there's only one way for you to know. expressvpn.com/hotbox. Find out what you're missing. Yamada brings Kusano back to his warehouse and reveals his plan. Yamada is the one that wants to rob Kanbei, and he wants information about Kanbei's movements from Kusano. When Kusano refuses, Yamada resorts to torture. But then, out of nowhere, DoorDash shows up.
Your favorite restaurants now deliver with DoorDash.
I'm kidding, this guy's name is Onuma, and as the sound design of this scene will tell you, he kinda kicks ass.
He was a good man. What a rotten way to die.
After Kusano is rescued, Tokugawa reveals that Semiya gave the heads up to him and Kanbei. Kanbei reminds him that now blood has been spilled for this cause. It's lives on the line for this money, and Kusano definitely can't go back anymore. This point gets reinforced in this dream sequence where a bloody Yamada visits Kusano and literally spills blood on his bed while saying there's no going back. Kusano wastes no time trying to organize new scams, but they're running out of names, and they're still nowhere close to their goal. Kurusu makes an observation that the register also reveals how much money each victim keeps in physical cash at their home, which leads him to propose that the players should start staging actual physical robberies. Kusano is absolutely against that idea. In his view, robbery is a crime, but their scams are a business. This just further shows how much he's bought into Kanbei's dogma. Kurusu even offers to hire his own people, but Kusano just sticks to his choices. Meanwhile, Misaki gets an unexpected visitor.
Sup, you beautiful bastards? Hope you're having a fantastic...
We then get our first experience with Sachiko, Kusano's mom, at work. She's cleaning up after boomers while they put RedTube on in the background.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
But while this is happening, Sachiko stumbles upon that money that Kurusu mentioned earlier, and she gets her first taste of what really goes on with the elderly. And then Misaki just kind of tells her everything else because Himeka confessed that Kusano is involved with the Yakuza, and this makes Sachiko think about her own experiences with the elderly before she does some investigating of her own. Meanwhile, Kusano is living it up. Profits have made it to nearly 80 million, but they're still running low on names and targets. However, we do get another really good Semiya scene. We get to explore motivation. Semiya, who's chasing security for his son, is dedicated to his new partner. He views Kusano's efforts as his road to success. He can get rid of his debts and live a happy life with his family. But when Semiya flips the question, it gets a little concerning because we learn that Kusano has at this point paid for his father's treatments. So why does he continue? Kusano claims that he feels he's awake now. He openly admits he's high on the adrenaline. He's found something that he enjoys, for better or for worse. He even doubles down on this in the outro.
俺はもう振り込め詐欺をやめられないだろう。そう。たとえ何があっても絶対に。
But when Kusano gets home, he's got some explaining to do.
誠、説明しなさい。
Kusano attempts to lie and cover his tracks, but Sachiko has found everything. I mean, his mom even went through all of the plans on his laptop. And then we get this really quick flip in Kusano's demeanor, because when he's faced with his mom's pleas, he immediately changes his tone to apologetic. You know, he claims that he wants to quit after he meets his next profit goal. And to me, this just feels like a vast change from the guy I just met at the bar who was high on the action. Being a good mom, Sachiko offers to help by providing something valuable, information. She crafts the M register. M not only for mom, but for Kusano's other name, Makoto. The register contains the data of all of her clients, past and present, as well as information on assets and families. However, using this data is a risk. Kusano is doing things without express permission from Kanbei or Tokugawa, which is not only a problem by itself, but an even bigger problem if using this information creates more trouble.
Honey, you've got a big storm coming.
The impacts of the M register are immediate. We get to see them right away. When Kusano's mom arrives at her work, that poor old guy just got taken for millions.
This is serious.
But not everything is roses and daylilies. Tokugawa calls a private meeting, him and Kusano. The news is bad. They have no collectors. With Yamada gone, there's no more people to go and collect without risking the players themselves. Kusano is ordered to keep this a secret, and as for the money, Kanbei will be filling in the gaps on his own dime, while he tries to negotiate new hires from the Yakuza. However, Kanbei is under suspicion himself. He tries to suggest collectors that he knows to the Yakuza, and this angers Tojo, who takes it as a sign that Kanbei doesn't trust the Yakuza. I must say, in the few times that Tojo appears, he adds a lot to whatever atmosphere he's in. His actor, Tetta Sugimoto, plays that unhinged boss character so well.
警戒してんじゃないですか。
警戒？俺とカメちゃんの中で何を警戒するの？
ヤクザに紹介された集金屋じゃ、もしも金持って飛ばれた時泣き寝入りになっちまう。そう考えてんじゃないですかね。
カメちゃんそんなこと考えたら勘弁してよ。いえ、そんなことは絶対に。足りねえだ。
A lot of people will be scared here.
Back at the store, Kusano levels with Semiya about their lack of collectors, unwittingly also revealing this information to an eavesdropping Kurusu, who approaches them with a plan of his own.
We're gonna need 16 times the detail.
Before that, though, we get a few scenes that show how bad things have gotten at home. Sachiko is struggling to face the guilt. She's drinking when we haven't even seen her touch alcohol before. And Kusano, her son, the person that she's doing all of this for, can just offer this really cold, desensitized advice. Like super basic stuff like, just shut your feelings off.
Wow.
大丈夫。ちょっと不安になっただけ。ダメだね。
And then the Misaki scene. Misaki, who knows everything, gives Kusano one more chance to tell the truth about what he does for work. And then the wind swells and you think you're gonna get this huge moment of clarity, but no, he just lies straight to her face.
よかった。
Kusano then meets with Kurusu's men. He's looking for new collectors. This is former escort security Taiga, Shiro, and Toki. And these guys' character is eating good and smoking, cabbage.
Get on the ground.
Go
Get on the ground right now.
Kusano sees these guys as way too unreliable. He says there's no way that he can work with them, but in the process, he calls them cavemen. And that doesn't sit well with Kurusu at all. You can tell this is a pretty deep cut, because Kurusu, who has lived his life being taken advantage of and looked down on, is now being looked down on by someone he thought respected him. He's starting to see Kusano as just another one of those people who thinks they're better than everyone. He forgives Kusano, but not without a warning. The next day, things are back to normal. The office is open, and Sachiko is back on her way to work. Wait, who was that just now? Sachiko is in horrible shape after being caught up in the robbery, but to her, she views it as retribution for the family's ill-gotten gains. This right here, this is the most impactful reminder so far to Kusano. It's a hard reality check. Remember, the thoughts of his father are long gone now. The boy who once was fighting to pay his dad's medical bills and save his life is gone now. And we've got a man who has to face the consequences of what he's doing. Semiya meets with Kusano, and Kusano confesses where the M register really came from. They try and figure out who could be behind the robbery, but Kurusu is putting his own pressure on Kusano. He's teasing him, he's getting in his head. Kusano chooses to abandon the M register along with his investigation. Right now, he needs to focus on making money so that he can keep his promise. But his head is anything but clear, as is evidenced by this dizzy, blurry shot sequence. Sachiko warns Kusano that the police are starting to make connections. Meanwhile, true outsider Misaki, knowing that she's talking to a liar, communicates a really jaded viewpoint. All she wants to know is how things got this way. Was the world always like this? You know, Misaki, looking for these golden times, captures the general sorrow, the zeitgeist of the era that this show is set in. It's a world that's taken everything from its people, all in one big snap.
Look at the flick of their wrist. Look at the flick of their wrist.
We even get this little moment where Yamada slowly surfaces, and maybe that's a metaphor for Kusano's murky, bubbling stress just coming to the surface. Can I also talk about something cool that I'm noticing in post? Look at this shot. Alright? Light and dark, yin and yang. We have light, Misaki, on the right side. That whole side of the shot is brighter. Even that half of the door is the brighter half, versus Kusano's side. Dark, shadowy, like the person that he's become. And yet between the two, similarities. They both hang their heads the same way, and even these two circles right here go to show that they're two sides of the same coin. The next scene strangely has so much to do with water. It takes place at Semiya's house, which is by the canal. They have drinks, which, since they can't have alcohol, they drink straight water, and Semiya even talks about his past. Get this, the guy used to sell water coolers. Kusano confesses that he's thinking of quitting, and Semiya isn't having any of it. Semiya clearly feels a connection with Kusano, and Kusano leaving would just leave Semiya feeling used and expendable, just like he has his whole life. Not to mention that Kusano's reasoning is super flimsy. You can't pussy out on your own feelings when 2 episodes ago you were saying that you lived for this high.
This is 4K! How did they get you at 4K? That ain't me.
Meanwhile, collectors are still being robbed, and the Yakuza are beginning to suspect meddling from Kanbei's part. They think he's too passive of a leader. Kanbei meets with Tokugawa, and the two reflect while they contemplate a potential war. They share this particular story about when they were both players and went to the beach together. Seems they're missing their own golden times. Then we get this interesting theory from Onuma. Onuma is talking at a hostage.
You so fucking precious when you smile.
About crispy food and why we like crispy food. He posits that it originates from when people eat scabs from their scrapes when they're a kid. And believe it or not, there's some merit to this. Psychologists like Linda Bartoshuk describe taste as part biology and part experience. So yeah, maybe eating scabs did make people like crispy stuff. Onuma gets called to collect on a job, and we're taken back to the office. The rift between Semiya and Kusano is bigger than ever. Like, look at how Semiya moves away from Kusano's lighter, versus in the second episode, where they're friendly and they share it instead. Tokugawa sets his own ambush and gets just the information he's been looking for. He confronts Kurusu, who makes a break for his hideout. But this clean getaway is interrupted by that pesky DoorDash again. Okay, so this fight scene with Onuma and Kurusu's guys is the only time we get to see Onuma fight on screen, and it's entertaining, to say the least. It's definitely over the top and kind of blows your suspension of disbelief for a little while, since this show that's been pitching itself as, this semi-realistic, gritty drama is now throwing shots at you that are basically slapstick. But the results are funny nonetheless to me. I like it. Kusano and Tokugawa confront Taiga and Shiro, and Onuma gets sent off to hunt for Kurusu before he can do more freak shit with the boys. I love the swing set torture. By the way, it's just so creative. Plus, it gets Toki to confess that Semiya was also a traitor. It gives you this nice callback too to that shot sequence from earlier, and you realize that if you were paying attention, you could interpret them being on the phone as a metaphor for their connection to each other. Mori and Goriki go searching for Semiya, and Tokugawa lets Kusano know that he knows about the M register.
Top of the morning, Giannis. My name is Jack.
Kusano finds Semiya at the playground that they met at earlier, and Semiya confesses that he organized this to pay back a debt from his past so that he could protect his family, just like he's always wanted to. And when Kusano said that he was going to quit, Semiya didn't think he could go on and started looking for an easy out. This led him to falling in with Kurusu. Semiya also claims he didn't want to bother Kusano because he didn't want to cause more trouble for Kusano, who claimed that he wanted a normal life back during that night at the apartment. And then we get my favorite moment in the whole show that also kind of establishes Goriki's violent tendencies. Meanwhile, Onuma game-ends Kurusu with really bad chroma keying. Kanbei meets with Semiya and Kusano, who try to bargain with him, but Kanbei thinks that the debt is too much. The Yakuza won't take kindly to this. Semiya begs on his knees over and over, and finally, Kanbei concedes and releases Kusano and Semiya, telling them to just get out, presumably before he changes his mind. Semiya and Kusano go their separate ways on seemingly good terms. Kusano just wants to get home, but home is far from sweet. Goriki and Mori have been sent to steal the M register. There are these lovely tension-building shots before a struggle ensues, and Goriki gets violent. Misaki escapes with the register, and Mori and Goriki give chase. This is where we also see the disparity between Mori and Goriki. Mori can't stand for this violence, and Goriki says, well, if you can't stand, then sit. Goriki ends up at Misaki's grandma's house, in this whole moment that feels like something out of a slasher movie, building all this tension until it finally mounts with this super satisfying scene of Goriki getting about 5 years tased off of his lifespan. Kusano arrives at Misaki's house, only to meet a Misaki that's been hurt by Kusano's choices and his lies. This slap stings, even through the screen. The police give chase to Kusano, and we get this sequence of super woozy shots where Kusano is kinda sloshing through the streets. He's lost in a maze of his own lies, so far from home, just drifting. The next morning, Kanbei bargains down the Yakuza, but not without the promise that they're going to be taking 80% of profits for the next 3 years. Tokugawa and Kanbei take a breath for the first time in a long time, and decide that it's time to take a little trip. Meanwhile, Kusano gets a visit from an old friend. Yamada is back. Why? Because he doesn't die that easy. Yes, they pulled that card. No, I'm not happy, but we'll get there later. Yamada threatens Kusano for his money. He exists right now just to mock Kusano about how far he's fallen. Kusano runs away, leaving Yamada stumbling over himself again, just like in the first episode. Kusano meets with his mom to discuss everything before Tokugawa calls him to the office one last time. He takes off, but not before his mom can give him some important news. His dad's coming home today. Kusano gets to the office while Dokugawa and Mori are hard at work, wiping the place clean of any evidence. They really are making their own boulevard of broken dreams. It's just like Kurusu predicted. Kusano cries as he wipes those words from the billboard. It's the last piece of this life that he started what feels like so long ago. All of those promises, the fulfillment, is being taken from him. Taken by the same world that he was running from in the first place. After the office is raided, Dokugawa releases Kusano and Mori. Kusano scrambles to get home. Now he's the one tripping over himself. He attempts to bargain with Misaki, who, understandably, wants nothing to do with him. This lands us back at Kusano's house, to one of the most eerie sequences in the whole show. You see, Sachiko's whole plan here is just to act normal, to not arouse suspicion, since they're all still under investigation. I gotta tell you, they try so hard to throw those rose-tinted glasses over you, but if you pay attention to the whole thing, you can see the cracks start to form. The dialogue gets more and more uncomfortable. Yamada's banging and rattling like an invasive thought. We cut away to Kanbei and Dokugawa, who are talking about making their amends and starting anew. Kanbei even helps this old couple here, but you realize that even this happiness is part of the sequence, because Kanbei gets fucking sandwiched. Kusano apologizes at home. He's circled back to that old reasoning. It's what Shotaro told him from the start. If no one would help me, I had to help myself. But with the doorbell ring, Kusano's father is finally home, and everything can go back to normal. Wait, that doesn't sound right. FBI, open up! The police arrive and apprehend Kusano in this beautiful, long, continuous, gritty shot that feels like one of the most real moments in the whole show. Kusano meets the fate that so many main characters like him meet in the end. Remember my Light Yagami comparison? Well, it's not too far off here. Both characters went down fighting. They had the consequences of their actions being thrown at them from every side, but all they can do is just scream and try to justify themselves, because these points, these self-truths, have become all that they know. This life was the reality that they made, so they have to be forcibly removed from it.
You led your own father to his death, and now he's gone, you call him a fool?
That's right, Matsuda. In this world, all those earnest people like him who fight for justice, they always lose. You want a world where people like that are made to be fools? I know you understand, so kill the others! Shoot them!
The epilogue picks up with Semiya, who's turned himself into a legitimate door-to-door salaryman who's helping old people manage their retirement plans. But reform is a bittersweet taste, and we can see he's still trying to reach out to Kusano. Kusano is last seen in his holding cell when an officer approaches. But it isn't to take him to trial. Kusano actually gets released. Misaki rescinded her testimony at the very last minute, but Kusano still walks on thin, thin ice. And through everything, none of this has changed Kusano's mind. He still believes that he's right. We hear him repeating it in his head the minute he leaves those doors. And the show closes on this moment. Misaki and Kusano, face to face one last time. And then Shotaro pulls up and says, "Not so fast. We want that season 2 money. Hey!" CAMS is a show with so much to offer, but does it blunder sometimes? 100%. That season 2 setup is clumsy and downright shameless. The show would have been just fine if it ended at that little moment where Semiya is trying to call Kusano. This, along with the fact that Yamada has to be shoehorned back in just to be a hole for Kusano to throw his money into, are just some of my problems. But if these are my biggest complaints about the show, then I would think that speaks more to the show's success rather than its shortcomings. Scams gives us characters that are sympathetic now more than ever. The ones it fleshes out make any attentive viewer constantly question motives, and that's what a good show is. When you play a game, read a book, or digest a piece of media, there's a good saying that carries over no matter where you go. Don't judge a book by its cover. Good media makes you consider everything and question everything, from the morals of the characters to the moral of the world around them. And hopefully, it even gets you to start to reflect on your own surroundings. When so often we're given things that we can always take at face value, when there's a base good and a base wrong, we become complacent or even bored with the things that we consume. And I think something provoking is way more valuable. I would rather have something that makes me go back a bunch of times because, well, each time is another time that I get to enjoy something. And that's the feeling this show gave me. I've watched this show now 5 times as of writing the script, and it will be 6 since I have to edit this all together. But I keep coming back because I always found new things to consider. And I sincerely hope that whether it's this show or not, all of you find something that makes you feel like this too. Thank you for watching. This is something that I've wanted to do for forever on this channel. I love these long-form kind of projects, and I want to do more like this in the future. So don't be afraid to comment and tell me what you want to see. I'm also going to take a moment and give a special thanks to all of my patrons: Srirachass, Dank Memer, Casey, Lily Boran, Nihilicious, EJ, An Angry Sponge, Michael McClintock, Cap Daddy, Robin Hoods, Morty, Okuda, Mio, Dawn Fox, Puppy Bites, Crystal, Jasmine, Tazafraz, Fueco, and Serpentwined. My heartfelt thanks to each of you, and to every single one of you. You guys always manage to go above and beyond. If you enjoyed the video, why not leave it a like and subscribe to see more. Whenever you're watching this, I hope you have a good rest of your day and an even better tomorrow. I love you. And before you say it back, look in the mirror and say it to yourself. I'll see you in the next episode of whatever I make. And until then, this has been the Hotbox. Bye. Mwah.
I remember the day you appeared on this earth, with eyes like the ocean, got blood on my shirt. From my camera angle, it looked like it hurt, but your mama had a big old smile. We drove you home, saw your yellowing skin, packed a few things and drove you back again. Stayed up all night, worrying, wondering what was gonna make it better. Broken bones heal if you set them right. Get your fine-toothed comb from the barber's side. Our love's a protective poison, but you are your mother's child, and she'll keep you for a while. But one day you'll be grown